This is To Wit, a podcast for women in tech doing life. I'm Melinda Smith.
And I'm Kristi Campbell.
Whoop, whoop. Oh my God.
Hello. A long time no see. Just kidding.
Hey, how are you with Aunt Flo coming at to your door? Hurricane
Can
Florence.
I just tell you how much I love hashtag Aunt Flo
It's the best.
and the super phallic images that people are commenting on? Like, it's one time that you're happy for all the comments on the internet is when the National Hurricane Weather Service accidentally posts a hurricane projection that looks just so phallic. In general, I think we're going to be fine. It's going to be rainy. I'm hoping that like wet dogs is the worst of my problems.
Sure.
I got wine, so that's going to be good. I need to find my flashlights and make sure I have the right batteries. I have batteries. I don't know if they're the right ones. You know what's really interesting? I was thinking about it today. I think we have too much information. I'm literally every radio station I was listening to today was talking about it. I got an email from like my dentist's office. Like, I don't need 15 resources but everyone's just trying to, I mean, you can't not, but like, no, I'm not going to go to the radio station website /storm to get my updates. So that's my one annoying thing. Clearly I'm on a soapbox now. The other annoying thing, I was at lunch today and the coverage was on the TV and I don't even want to watch it to that level of minutia. Like, I want a 5-minute update per day and that's it. Like, it's coming later on Friday and Saturday. It's going to be a lot of rain and maybe lots of wind. Great. Sold. Donezo. Like, I don't need I don't know what the words mean. I don't even know. Anyway, but I hate when they have the guy standing out there
in the rain, in the wind,
almost getting blown over, falling into the ocean. Number one, don't tell me that everyone should evacuate and then you don't evacuate with the cameraman. Number two, a stationary camera with a dummy or a ruler would tell you what's going on. Number three, like, what if they get stuck? I honestly hope one of them gets stuck somewhere and then some stupid resource people have to go rescue them because they're, I don't know why, but people watch it. I don't know. I just can't even. Like, why does that?
Like, yesterday, the guy standing in like blue skies, sunny weather, and he's like, you wouldn't know what's coming. And I was telling Josh, I'm like, yeah, kind of. Like, it seems like everything's fine. Everything's totally fine. But you have to, like, apocalypse.
Oh, that's the interesting thing. Well, that's the interesting thing about hurricanes, right? Is like, so I grew up in Southern California, which will be funny later because Jace is from there. So you'll hear my auto response when he mentions California. But earthquakes are the jam, right? So,
yeah. Well, and you can't see that shit coming.
Exactly. So it's a very different experience, right? Like,
totally. Well, it's not so much panic as before. Like, even tornadoes, you even get, like, that's really kind of the only thing we get here.
Right.
But still, there's a little bit of warning, even if it's not a ton.
Right.
But like earthquakes, it's like, oh, the ground is shaking? Okay, that's happening right now.
But even with tornadoes, you know kind of that the weather is conducive to them. So it's like
when it looks
a warning, right? So that's what I think is really interesting. I saw a meme about somebody commenting that like preparing for a hurricane is kind of like being stalked by a turtle. Like a snapping turtle, right? Like, you know it's coming for you and it's not going to be good, but like you're just sitting there staring at it. You know, so
dude, I'm using that.
It's kind of like
that is awesome.
It's kind of like that. So yes, I mean, I think it'll be fine. Maybe I won't have power, and then I'm gonna be the asshole. I don't know, but I think we'll be fine. My roommate and I are just planning to hunker down. I have candles, you know, and I'll nap a lot if it's dark. I don't know. It'll be fine.
Read. I always want to, and you know what? I don't.
Well,
this like the end of my fucking story. Like, I don't read. I was gonna launch into a self-deprecating thing, but I decided not to.
That is great.
Yes, self-love.
Instead, let's talk about our new friends. Well, my new
So
friends.
as promised, 3 episodes back to back each week. I know people are like on the edge of their seats. Like, what are we doing? Next week is Angela Mahoney. We're talking pre-Dreamforce. That's why we haven't mentioned it now. But super freaking excited. Let's talk nonprofit. Now, I will say, you guys know, I don't script this, but I have been working on scripts so much for Dreamforce that I wrote out like every word I should say right now, and it felt really weird. But I'm going to do it anyways. All right.
Please read it like a robot. Just kidding.
Kristi and I are excited to bring on Jace Bryan and Cori O'Brien, Brian Squared. What? So they both work for .org, and we wanted to share the cool things that they're doing because it always seems like this cool club that I don't know anything about. And one of my tro leaders, Joanna Iturbi, she's in it, and I'm like, I just want to know what's going on all the time. So we decided to not only do a podcast about how cool nonprofit is and .org, but they have a sprint coming up and they tell us a little bit about it. So Jace Bryan, in the higher ed space of .org, supports the open source products by managing the community, builds products, delivery knowledge, manages the open source community in sprints, and supports sustainable open source community. Cori O'Brien, former MVP, is a NGO open source community manager, been in the nonprofit space for 17 years. She'll tell you a little more about it. And then, had to give up her MVP status for Salesforce for a .org job. And I won't spoil the rest because it's actually really funny.
Yeah, so this was something you set up, and I am really excited to hear more about it and learn more about it. And hopefully the dogs don't start wrestling literally right next to me while we're recording.
Let's bring them on. Welcome to the show, Jace and Cori. We already introduced you, but wanted to say thank you guys so much. I know that Jace and I have talked a lot in the past about really just like the difference between .com and .org, and why I always feel like there's this like invisible line that I can't touch, or like this group I want to see more of and I can't quite get to. So we decided to do this podcast, and right before your next sprint. So I will stop talking. Jace, why don't you start? Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got there, and then Cori right after, please.
Sure. So a little bit about myself. Let's see. So before I came to .org, I worked at a higher education institute in North Texas, originally not from North Texas, originally from California, but that's a whole other podcast.
Knows how to potty.
Anyway, so yeah, I worked at a university, and I was basically that person that had Salesforce handed to them, and I took responsibility for that. I went to Dreamforce in 2015, and got totally hooked, and just became the best admin I could be at my university. And eventually, I had an opportunity present itself to me at .org, and I basically got hired to be the open source community manager and running sprints with Judy until Cori came on board. And that's me.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Cori.
You're on board.
I am on board and loving it. I have spent the past 17 years in the nonprofit tech space. I used to work for a company, and yes, I worked there, one company, 17 years, in nonprofit credit card processing. So quite different than this world, but I got to learn a lot of really amazing skills working with those nonprofits, and just fell in love with the community and really the work in general. And started going to Dreamforce. Again, sort of like Jace's story, got handed Salesforce. I think we're all sort of accidental admins at one point. Yeah, and I fell in love with Salesforce, and I actually won a certification grant from Amplify. Back then it was Girlforce, at a Dreamforce breakfast, and got my certification and just kind of ran with it. Went to my first sprint, again, fell in love, just sort of started thriving in the community and loving it, and was hired by Salesforce.org this past March to be the NGO open source community manager.
You had to give up your MVP status.
I was an MVP for the shortest on record, which is 4 days.
That's awesome.
4 days. I accepted the offer, and the next day I got the email saying that I had been accepted into the MVP program. So I wasn't officially allowed to accept it, but they were kind enough to include me in all the social media.
That's fun.
And a friend on the inside might sneak me into the Dreamforce MVP event.
Ooh.
So
Hey,
we'll see.
Well, you're invited, of course.
Just yeah. So yeah, that's me.
A friend on the inside. Sorry. I love that it's like, ooh, I've got a guy. Maybe I can come.
So, I mean, did you guys both have like a passion for nonprofits? Is that kind of where it stemmed from, or you fell into it and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I love to give back? Or like, because, well, Cori, it sounds like you started there like 17 years ago. Jace, you're in higher ed. So like, was there like a calling like from your heart? Did you experience it in your life? Like, how did that begin for you?
I'll let Cori go first.
Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, again, mine goes back to Amplify. And just this whole community of women in technology and accomplices and allies. But yes, I've always had a passion for nonprofits. I loved working with them. Really just started volunteering. And the Joni, who started Amplify, put out a message in the hub and said, hey, I'm thinking about going to Ethiopia and working with
as one does,
and a nonprofit called the Slamta Family Project. And I just sort of, something spoke to me, and I just sort of jumped on it, and it changed my life completely. Not only from a personal level, I've had many friends and family members say that trip going to Ethiopia changed you, and it did. It opened my eyes, it opened my heart, and it really solidified my place here in the nonprofit community, and I've never looked back. I spent an amazing 2 weeks there, and continue to volunteer for the Slamta Family Project. They're based out of Florida, but they do a lot of amazing work in creating forever families for orphans in Ethiopia. So I work with them still. Salesforce has an amazing VTO and pro bono program, so I get to spend parts of my day working with them and other nonprofits. So yeah, it's a big passion of mine. I live in a nonprofit too. I live in a Canadian housing co-op. So I could talk about nonprofits forever. So I'll shut up.
My experience, it's interesting because my background hasn't always been higher ed. So from 2005 to 2012, I worked. I lived in California, so I worked at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and I was working on a bunch of different projects. I was in IT. I also supported, the quality assurance inspectors on lab that was basically looking at all the parts that would get fit together to basically turn into the Mars Science Laboratory. So my background has always been in IT. Yeah, it is. It's really, really neat. Like, there's nothing better than being a part of a massive project like that and to actually see it succeed. Like, to actually watch the encounter and the actual drop on Mars and everything, like the sky crane and everything work the way that we had, ultimately envisioned. Yeah, it was unbelievable. But in 2012, like after that project was done, I had a conversation with my manager, and I was like, hey, so like, what's next? Like, what's next? I'd
let's do that again.
Right? Yeah, let's do that again. Let's do it like five more times. But there was this situation to where, I needed to kind of identify like what was best for me. Did I want to stay at JPL and continue down that path, or did I kind of want to branch out? And my sister worked at this university in Texas, and she was like, hey, their IT department is starting from the ground up. They need some people that are familiar with the processes. So, what do you think? And I was like, hell no. You're in Texas. I don't want to go to Texas. I couldn't help to live in Texas unless you're in Texas. Sorry, all Texas people. I know. But anyway, yeah, hashtag sorry, not sorry. I made the move out here, which was a very long move. So I started at this higher ed institution, and it was funny because it was probably about a year and a half in, our IT department got contracted out. And so one of the business units I was working with in student success, they said, hey, we're not too sure exactly what this plan is going to look like for us. But we trust you. We like you. We have relationships with you, and you're a nice person. You seem to care about us. Why don't you come over to the dark side? We've got cookies and milk. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. So, about 6 months later is when Salesforce fell in my lap. And so to me, to be able to, it's not that higher ed isn't a passion. I basically find passion wherever I'm at. And so being able to work with the community and being able to work on a platform that empowers my customers to do the things that they need to do more efficiently, but also empowers them in the community to be better human beings. That is what sparks my passion. So that's why I'm glad to be here.
Do you have the .org shirt about .org and partners that go together like cookies and milk?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
I got it at Tahoe Dreamin' 2017.
Nice.
So just what made the literally like the one .org shirt I probably have talks about cookies and milk. So basically we're soulmates. That's what I'm saying. So then it sounds like you've probably both been mostly like working with the Success Pack, right? And coming from that side of things. So I guess kind of to Melinda's point earlier, like how do you navigate that? Or like how do you explain that interaction of like, well, I work for Salesforce, but it's for .org, but like, because I have enough trouble explaining I work for Salesforce, or I don't work for Salesforce, right? So,
are you sure?
Right?
Yeah, it can be hard. It can be hard. Not only is it hard to explain to your friends and family sort of what you do. I mean, really, they think you work in the CIA or something because no one quite gets what we do. But then to have to define the .org sort of aspects of it. And I actually explained it to my friend while we were driving to a show the other day. She's like, what do you do? I use Salesforce at my company, but what do you do? And the next thing I know, she tries to tell me to sell it to someone beside her. I'm like, no, I'm not a salesperson. But yeah, it can be hard. It can be hard. I mean, the best way to explain it is, Salesforce.org is there to share the amazingness of Salesforce with the nonprofit community in a way that the nonprofit community and the education community can consume it. So we have amazing open source initiatives happening. We have a different model than what you'll find with .com or core, as we call it. It's different and it can be challenging to navigate, but we've got an amazing marketing team. We have an amazing set of resources and documentation. And hopefully people understand it, but if not, we're here to answer questions.
Well, and I think it's interesting because obviously, just in general nerdiness, I've been aware, but I haven't specifically worked with it. So I want to say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that until not too long ago, the Success Pack wasn't even necessarily owned by .org. Did I make that up? So it seems like it's evolved in and of itself as well over time.
Well, it's always been open source. And so there's a challenge to understand, well, what does that mean? So if we back up a step, the Nonprofit Success Pack is really a app set of packages that you download. It goes on top of your standard Salesforce and it changes some of the defaults within Salesforce and gives you extra features and tools to give you what you need as a nonprofit organization. So you get extra objects, you get processes built in. There's a ton of functionality. There's a ton of documentation. There's an amazing set of tools there. But it's technically open source because the code is exposed. So it's all housed on GitHub. And we have an amazing set of engineers that are much smarter than I am, that build all this out and design it and have made it accessible for so many years to our customers. And so you can see it. You can literally fork the code, you can make changes, and you can use it in your own way. So it's very different than the .com set of, clouds that you get or your enterprise edition. Now you can even contribute it back. And in the past, a lot of our community members have been able to contribute back into the Nonprofit Success Pack. We are working on the ability for our community to give back in that way again. It's sort of gotten a little harder to do, mostly just from the technology. And we need we need to understand what is coming back into the code. And there's a lot that would go in for reviewing that code, etc. So just, I'm not sure if you want to add anything more to that. You have a little bit more background in some of this than I do.
How is the open source different from what Core provides? Because there's like Trailhead and you can dig in, but like, what's the actual difference? So I'm guessing there's core code that we don't see that you get to?
Well, at the end of the day, if you want to look at the code of Salesforce, there's only so far that you can go. You can't see the proprietary. Now, this is getting a little bit more technical than what I understand, but from a Salesforce.com point of view, you can't take the code, change the code, and then give the code back to them and have that code then be available to all the other Salesforce users.
I mean, to me, you're describing basically like an unmanaged package that everyone can contribute to.
Exactly. It's exactly what it is, but it's a managed package.
Because it's still on the platform, but like you still can't see behind Salesforce core things, but that you can see and at least at one point could edit the parts of the package.
Yeah, so you can edit your own org.
Right.
But you can't edit what is core to the Salesforce system.
Right.
So it's pretty much the same for the higher ed side, but higher ed folks, some higher eds use NPSP, others use what is called HEDA. It's the Higher Education Data Architecture. And again, it itself is a managed package that sits on top of Salesforce functionality. And higher education institutions use this because it's a standardized way. The way I interpret it really is just a standardized way of housing specific data that is common and core across all universities. So you'll have things in there like, you'll have like a standard object like contacts and things like that. But you'll also have the ability to track affiliations and relationships and, programs and courses and, program enrollments, things that are common and core across the board. Now, as Cori was saying, it's almost like if you had a pair of X-ray glasses, you could put those on, and because it is a managed package, but because the code is open source in GitHub, you can go behind the scenes and see like, well, I really want to figure out why this is happening. Maybe it's because of this trigger. Well, because it's open source, you can go into the source code and actually look at the triggers and be like, oh, that's why. And if you decided for whatever reason that you wanted to basically clone that code into your own GitHub repo and then deploy that into a test sandbox or whatever, you could basically do that. That's when it ultimately becomes unmanaged and you basically, set yourself up to manage it yourself. But in general, that's kind of that concept behind, the open source aspect and being able to see behind the scenes. Now, again, you like what Cori was saying, you don't get to see the core functionality, but you do get to see the packages functionality, which is really, really helpful.
So was that always the design? Like, was that always the goal with .org, not only to offer nonprofits and then different objects as far as like households and such, but you guys may not know this answer, but like, was that always the goal? Like, let's make this just a little bit more hands-on because they don't have a lot of resources or money. So let's make it a little bit more touchable.
I personally don't know exactly because I've only been with .org for about a year and a half. But what I will say seems to be one of the biggest benefits from someone that, my institution, we didn't have HEDA, right? So we were using core functionality. We were basically building our own version of HEDA. A lot of higher ed institutions were like this, so they would basically build HEDA for what it is. The only difference was that it wasn't common and core. So every time I would talk to an institution to be like, well, how are you guys handling, retention rates? Like, how are you guys doing that? And they would explain it to me and it would sound awesome. But there was like, I'd be like, okay, well, now I've got to go back and figure it out. Like, I couldn't go to them and be like, can you share that with me? Like, is there some place I can go and look and just copy that so I could, again, being the admin clicks not code, I would not want to reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. So the opportunity to be able to use our open source packages like that was awesome. Now, again, I know that's not really answering your question, but I think that that's one of the biggest values to anyone that has access to a .org license, a Salesforce license with .org, is that you do get this access to the things that are happening behind the scenes, and you do get to contribute with your community. Both .com and .org have, these communities. I think you've kind of alluded to this earlier. It's like we're both kind of, some people are kind of pinking over the fence on, on the Trailblazer side. And they're like, what's happening over at .org? And the people that, are in .org have access to both, but it seems like, we live in two different communities, but the communities are very much there for each other. It's just, I think a lot of the time people are always asking, well, what's the difference? What's happening over there? How can we get involved?
It's interesting to think about with user groups too, right? Because I think a lot of the things that we talk about at user groups are formulas, right? And like those kind of interactions that can be the same between both, but in some cases, obviously there are unique things to talk about. So I think I try to tell people, we started, Sherry Lavelle here in Charlotte started a nonprofit user group after I had been living here for years, and I met people I'd never met before. And it's like, where have you guys been? We've been having regular user group meetings. You can come to those too. So, but it is interesting too. I don't know if I had realized as much of kind of everybody rebuilding their own pieces of the same thing, right? So it's interesting.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And one way to think about it is, because when you hear open source, you can be, it's developers, it's code, it's really technical. And yeah, that's all there. But that's not Jace and I's role. We're not technical architects. We're not engineers. Where we come in and where the open source community really thrives is the people that want to give back by writing documentation, the people that want to give back by building a component that's going to connect this object and this object. It's not currently available. Let's build that out and let's give that back to them, or let's just, give that code away and let's just, or not even code, let's just give that component away and let's just make it available for everyone else in the community. So it's, when we're talking about the open source community, we're talking about everyone, developer to accidental admin. Everyone can give back in some way. And that's the feeling that we want to encourage. And that's why we have our sprints 3 times a year, so that we're able to
perfect segue.
Bring those in.
It's like you
but it's like I was gonna make some kind of joke about running, but then
but it's the truth.
She just went right into it.
It's why we
Cori, tell me about the sprint.
Right. I know, right? Well, I mean, the sprints are amazing. They're incredible. They're collaborative. It's a family reunion. It is the hub in person. And if you don't know what the hub is, it's the nonprofit education version of the Trailblazer community. It's just amazing. We're up to about 130 people that show up 3 times a year, different cities. It is in America so far. We haven't had a Canadian one at this point, maybe someday in the future. And then we've had a couple half days and sort of smaller events happen in Europe. It's the epitome of let's get together. Let's see what happens. Let's see what we can contribute to. Let's organically break into groups and let's get something done in 2 days. And if we don't get it done in 2 days, let's set aside some time before the next sprint and let's work on it, or let's form groups. We have some amazing groups that have come out of our sprints. On the nonprofit side specifically, we have a group that have created a managed package that is available. It's up. Any user can get it. It's called Outbound Funds, and it adds outbound grant making functionality on top of Salesforce. It works with the Nonprofit Success Pack. They're building a connection to HIDA, and it's totally free. And 5 or 6 community members have gotten together from ISV partners, from SI partners, from just community users, and they've built this thing, and they meet once a month, and it's amazing.
Cool.
It's so cool.
Are the sprints community driven? It doesn't necessarily
.org
sound like
sponsors.
it's a .org.
It is. So we sponsor it. We put it on. The people that come to the sprints don't have to pay to come to the sprint. So they just put themselves up in a hotel. If they're not local, they fly themselves there. But we supply food and a dinner, and our partners supply a dinner. We have amazing sponsors. It's just incredible. We have fun, but we get stuff done. For example, here's a really good one. Sorry, I get really passionate about this. We have a group that formed a number of years ago that create all of our NPSP videography videos. So there's a YouTube channel called NPSP Videography. And the two main people that started that are Katie McFadden and Katie, and Bill Florio. And they are so dedicated. They meet every month. I have the pleasure of joining their calls, and it's just lovely. Anyway, so they've created all these videos. They're incredible. They write all the scripts. They get the community to record the scripts for the videos at the sprints. So there's actual real people, real users recording. And they've been awesome, and the community loves them. This past sprint, when we were in Denver, Shannon Hale, an amazing Salesforce.org employee, brought up and led an initiative to make them more accessible. Accessibility is a passion of hers. So at the sprint, every single video was converted and files were uploaded to make them completely closed captioned. So now if you are blind or have any, not if you're blind, if you are deaf or have any sort of hearing impairment, you can now watch the videos and understand what's being said.
Cool.
So cool. That's awesome.
And they did 35 videos over the course of the 2 days.
Wow. Oh, wow. So are you coming up with the ideas of the things to do and doing the things in 2 days?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do we have to do? Who needs sleep?
Yeah,
it's fine.
I think it depends. Like the concept of it being unconference means that you're not getting those typical presentations or keynotes or panels or any of that stuff. Like, just toss that out the door. The idea in general is that if people want to come to a sprint and focus on things that maybe they've already discussed in the hub, in the Power of Us hub, like they go in there and they might go into our open source community group and they might start asking people about, hey, you know what? I know a sprint's coming up. I'm really, really wanting to focus in on, lead conversion, right? Like, this is a really big thing and we want to figure out how to make it work with HITA. So that's one way that the community can start pre-preparation. I would say it. Like, some people like that. Higher ed people love to have a little bit more structure, so they're more likely to go down that route. But we don't necessarily promote one way or the other. If people want to just show up at the sprint and be like, you know what, I'm just going to show up and see what happens. Like, I've been to sprints before. I know how organic they are. I know I don't necessarily need to know exactly what I want to work on. Then we have that opportunity for them to take part in what we call Sticky Palooza.
It's very inclusive. You see something interesting, people will grab a mic, they'll announce, hey, I want to work on this lead conversion. Anyone who want to join me? And people will come over.
So
or they won't,
cool.
and they'll do it on their own.
You don't even know
it's
what you're
really neat.
Get, but in a good way.
Yeah.
So
in a good way.
Let's just rewind, because you just drop Sticky Palooza in there and then walk away. Like, I'm not gonna.
I know you like how I did that. I was just
means.
boom.
Post-its!
It sounds to me like you invented Post-its. Yeah.
Or just the glue.
You know what? Like the Janine Garofalo. Yeah. Or was it Janine Garofalo? Wasn't that? It was Romy and Michelle.
Romy and Michelle.
Yeah. So technically, no, we didn't invent this, but the concept behind Sticky Palooza is that, when people have ideas, right? And we want to formalize those ideas onto something. And basically they formalize them on sticky notes, tiny little sticky notes. And so going back to the lead conversation around lead conversion, let's imagine like a really large sticky note on a wall that says recruitment. And maybe someone wants to talk about lead conversion. So they write down lead conversion and they stick it in the column of something that they want to focus on, or this is a problem area. This is something that I'd like to develop out. The sticky notes basically are just people's idea on some of the things that they want to work on. So like maybe there's a specific focus or maybe something that they feel could be improved upon. So Sticky Palooza just lasts, how long does it normally last, Cori?
Like half an hour, all said.
So half an hour, and then so the entire community just engages, and they write down all these different things. And so by the time that they're done with Sticky Palooza, we have these people that are these topic leaders, and what they'll do is they'll look at each one of these topic areas and they'll say, well, you know what? It seems like the largest conversation for recruitment today looks like it's around lead conversion. So it's basically allowing us to help the community get their juices and creative juices flowing. It could be too. Here's something that's going to throw you a little bit. Right? That was nice. I even gave you like a little sound effect. Is that it could be that they end up looking at that and being like, you know what? That seemed really interesting, but you know what? So-and-so over at this table is talking about this. It wasn't on a sticky note. I want to go that way. Like, that's the whole organic nature of it, is that really the community drives the conversation. The community drives. And again, this is the concept of open source, right? The things that survive in open source are because there is value there.
I love the collaborative stuff. I really wanted to go to the event here in Denver, but I had family in town I hadn't seen for a while. And then, of course, Joanna posted all the fun pictures of all the fun things you guys were doing for Denver Salesforce Palooza.
Well,
it's amazing.
That's a good question, I guess, right? So again, not coming from, I mean, I've been to my share of nonprofit user group meetings because A, I'm motivated by free food, and B, because I got to meet all these new people I hadn't talked before, and I really like to do that kind of stuff. So I guess, who are you looking for to come to these kind of things, right? Because I haven't worked with MPSP. I haven't, like, I could talk about ideas, right? But I'm quote unquote not a developer. I'm a citizen developer. So, you know, like, who, I guess, are you targeting toward to come?
It's a great question. And it is one that we get asked quite a bit. And you know what? Anyone can come, but those who are going to find value. And at the end of the day, we want all of the people that come to a sprint to leave with a feeling of accomplishment and that they were able to make a contribution. And if you don't know or use the Nonprofit Success Pack, Volunteers for Salesforce, HEDA, you will have a hard time doing that. So what we recommend is, if you're going to come to a sprint, understand the products and have some expertise in them, some level of expertise in them. You don't have to be a developer, but you don't want to show up and say, "What's a Nonprofit Success Pack?" You're not. Yeah, you're not going to have a great 2 days. If it's something you want to explore, go for it. And we do them 3 times a year. So if you don't make the next one, which is in Portland in October, maybe you can come to spring or summer or fall. We don't have locations pinned down yet. We have some ideas, but nothing pinned down yet for the next ones. But
I mean, it sounds like you need to come to the East Coast.
We do.
I'm hearing Colorado. I'm hearing Oregon.
I know, right? We go, generally, we do 3 a year, and we'll go east, west, central. So we've been to Boston, Washington. We've got some ideas lined up for the next year, but historically we've been able to hit the different locales.
Can I say one other thing really fast?
Yeah.
I would say that if you are someone that doesn't know HEDA, doesn't know Nonprofit Success Pack, and doesn't know Volunteers for Salesforce, but you are interested in actually seeing how to organize a sprint and seeing how the organic nature flows because you want to introduce that into your own community, I think it would be of value. Just because I think a lot of people on the .com side as customers have heard about this through people like Corey Snow, a higher ed MVP. And, I know you guys probably have seen Corey is posting all over Twitter.
Mr. Snow, the cool Corey.
Mr. Snow, the Twitter man. But a lot of people through him have asked, hey, we've heard about these sprints, how can we get involved? How do we do this? Because we really want to introduce this type of an activity into our community. So I would say for those types of people showing up and sitting down, even if you're just listening in on conversations and you're seeing things and you're wondering well, why did you guys choose to go down this route? Or, there's a lot of value still there, I would say.
And I want to, before you're done, obviously we'll get more details on your next sprint. But so in the past, when I was learning a little bit more Salesforce, I think Guillermo Padroni hooked me up with a site called, I think I'm going to get it wrong, Catch a Fire, something like that. And you could kind of put your name out there to help nonprofits pro bono with their work. So it was like a repository for people that want to help nonprofits. Like, what can you offer? What can you do? So I got to see a part of it then, and I helped out with someone for a little bit, like data loading, something like that. But all this is leading up to is there a way to be involved? Yes, I can join a nonprofit here and volunteer. There's Pep Up Tech where you can get involved. But if there was a part of me that's like, you know what I want to do? I just want to donate 20 hours a month to a nonprofit, help them with some org build out, because that's just what I feel passionate about. Are you guys the ones to talk to? Like, how would we get involved? Would we go to a sprint and say, hey, I know a little bit, I know enough to be dangerous, and I want to donate my time?
Sorry, I'll fill that one. I'm looking at Jace.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was not looking at you.
I'm looking at you.
I can say something, but I'm going to let you go first. Popcorn Cori.
So I would say probably not really. Not yet, anyway. What we would suggest, or what I would suggest anyway, is if you are completely unfamiliar with the nonprofit space, Salesforce space, and you want to contribute some time, or you want to get involved with nonprofits, is attend your local user groups and get to know nonprofits in your area and help them see what you can do. What we would like to see is developers, admins, they have volunteer hours, they want to contribute them. They want to contribute them to specific open source projects that are happening. Like, did you know outbound funds was a thing? No. Did you know you could contribute to it? No. We would like it to make sure that everyone who wants to has a place to come where you will be able to find these types of projects, and then you will be able to contribute to those types of projects. We are working on some initiatives for that. We don't have a whole lot of information now, but wouldn't that be nice to have a space like that where you could see a listing of projects that you could donate your time to?
Well, I mean, now I'm down a rabbit hole at catchafire.org. And I started with database administration, which may not be the best, but I've got multiple Salesforce projects here. But
nice.
It is that balance of, I think it's tough. Like, people say that's a great way to learn, but it's also you don't want to lead people down the wrong path. Just like anyone who's paid a consultant that they feel like treated them wrong, or that told them only what they know, right? And then you do it the way you know to do it, and that might not be the most efficient way. So, I definitely think there's value in looking, and obviously you weren't asking me this question, but I think there's value in looking at the types of problems that people have on the hub, or have like the type of questions that people are answering, and trying to solve them.
And anyone can join the Power of Us Hub?
You need to be with a nonprofit organization, an ISV partner, or an SI partner. So like a consultant or an app builder, or have a license in a nonprofit org. So there are some limitations there.
So don't listen to me. No, I'm just kidding. But again, some of those fundamental things about object relationships, and about doing your first data load and screwing it up, and those kinds of things, I think there's definitely value beyond a trailhead challenge you can check, right? Like in thinking about old jobs that you've had, or somewhere you volunteered, that you volunteer because you're a good human and you like them, and just asking what kind of problems they're trying to solve, right? Like, I think there's, depending on your level of self-motivation, I think there's definitely ways to get involved versus sitting back and be like, well, no one told me how to get involved, so I'm not going to learn.
And if you just want to practice, if you just want to, get a dev org, download Nonprofit Success Pack. It's free. No special licenses.
Look at you.
So that's a great way to look at the products, to learn, and to just play around, right?
And watch a whole 37 million closed caption videos. Just kidding. You said 37, but I'm sure there's so many, right? So
there will be 37 million eventually.
Right. There's all those resources. So,
and we've got some great trailheads.
But Cori brings up a good point with spinning up a quick developer org that has, NPSP, or the trial orgs ultimately, is that you can, at that point, once you have HITA available to you, you could go, or NPSP, and you can go into the GitHub repos, and you can actually see, okay, you go to issues inside of GitHub, you can see some of the things that have been submitted for work, right? And if you had, like a lot of our customers, they have a dedicated, instance. And so they'll spin up their own sandbox, and they'll say, well, hey, you know what, I may want to focus on this, and I may want to actually make a direct contribution to HEDA or NPSP rather than actually building out an open source component that extends or enhances something that .org is not necessarily have on its roadmap currently. So you'd have access to that, and then you could actually see what they're working on, and you could make that determination at that point. Even if you're a partner or if you're a customer and you're just thinking, how else can I give back? At least that way you'd have access to look at what's coming down the pipeline, and figure out from that point how you want to be able to.
I just want to be involved again. I think I've said this is Kristi, is this going on a year now or 2 years of podcasting that I miss my nonprofit. I miss it in LA.
Maybe it's put up or shut up time, Melinda Marie.
That one just spoke to my heart. So yeah, I'm seriously always trying to get involved. But before we get to the ultimate question, please plug the next sprint, give all the details, and then we'll make sure it's in the show notes.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. So the next Salesforce.org open source community sprint, the third and final of 2018, is happening October 24th through the 25th in Portland, Oregon. And the location is at the Benson Hotel, 309 Southwest Broadway, Portland, Oregon, 97205. Yes, I spelled out the whole thing.
We can send them a letter.
And if you want to stay connected with the sprints, and you're in the Power of Us Hub, please join the open source community sprint group. And that's
perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. So the infamous question. We always ask our guests like kind of their biggest Salesforce screw up. And I would love if you had put thought into it, if you could obviously customize it around .org. Like, did you make one person in the household for everybody? Did you turn on donations? I don't even know what I'm talking about. But
just words.
Things screw up. Go. Cori, you start.
Go, Cori.
Oh, God.
You could go
Oh, God.
first.
So wait, do you mean like my experience working with a nonprofit or me working at .org?
I think being on the platform in any fashion. Usually it's like, oh my God, did I just send 4,000 emails, automated emails at midnight?
So here's what I did. It wasn't a nonprofit. It was at my last company. And it was a for-profit, and I was the admin. They know about all this, so I'm not sharing any secrets here. I can't remember exactly what I was doing. Oh, right. So I was doing a data loader import, and there was a setting in there. I have to remember now. There was a setting in there because you can apply a lead assignment rule. So I was doing an import, and I didn't realize that the lead assignment rule was hard-coded into the data loader settings. Anyway, so when I did my import, it recalculated all of the open leads based on the lead assignment rules, which I believe were outdated because every single lead got reassigned to a new salesperson. That was fun. Yeah, that was fun. I had to run into the VP's office, own it, and then go fix it as fast as I could.
Don't look at that. I'm going to fix it.
Yeah. They were like, wait, what happened to my lead? Why do I have this lead now? I'm like, oh no, territory based too. It was a nightmare.
Yesterday I had 30,000 leads, and today I only have 30.
Yeah, pretty much exactly.
Am I fired? Sorry.
No. So that was horrifying.
That's a...
For me,
that's a good one. I'm just going to keep interrupting my guests because that's how we roll, apparently. Sorry, go ahead.
Mine wasn't necessarily, what mine has to do with my old university, but it wasn't necessarily something inside of Salesforce. It was more of when Salesforce first came to the university, I had to figure out everything without, access to Trailhead back then, without any documentation, but I had to whip up a presentation because I had to go in front of the president of, I almost said of the United States.
Please don't.
President of our university, wouldn't do that. President of our university, and I had to basically pitch what Salesforce was. And so I had two slides. One was a big, huge pink Cadillac, and the other one said free. And so obviously the problem was the slide that said free, because I didn't understand necessarily the 10 free licenses stopped at 10, and I don't know how I forgot that. So I'm pitching Salesforce like this big pink Cadillac that the university needs. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's got all the things that we need to help our recruiters get where they needed to be. It's basically the end all be all perfect solution. And then I get to the free slide and I was like, this is what's going to knock it out the ballpark. I was like, and no, they were like, oh my God, it's free. And then I was just like, yeah, it's just, and then I realized, I was like, wait, that makes no sense. How could it be free? And I panicked. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So it was
free?
more along the lines of pitching Salesforce for free around a big pink Cadillac. So
oh, man.
That was kind of nightmarish. But I checked that all up to a misunderstanding around why I inserted that slide. I had to talk myself around it, but yeah. But he was definitely really excited about it. He's like, free? That's amazing. Sign me up. I want a free pink Cadillac. And I was like, sorry about that.
You're like, more of a free pink Mini
Yeah,
Cooper.
yeah. It's like a cute mini pink. Yeah, it's like cute little. Yeah.
I mean, it's like a
Hot Wheel. Yeah, it's more like a micro machine. But if you want the full package, yeah.
I feel like it's more that the wheels are free, but they're not really that helpful without the rest of it.
Well, so, I mean, shameful plug. If you are a nonprofit and you apply, you get 10 free licenses to enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're a small nonprofit, that is your entire world. You could use every bit of Salesforce that you need as a nonprofit. That's your PTAs. That's Salamta,
Totally.
the charity that I work for or with. And it's amazing. And yeah, if you have more than 10 licenses, you do have to pay for licenses, but you do get them at a discount.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not paying the for-profit rates.
Our university started with a 10 free, and they were basically so surprised because it came with support. Like, that's not something that they're used to getting as well. You've got 10 free license. Wait a second, we don't have to pay for the support with the 10 free? Like, what? Like, the idea is that it was just so of value to them because they want to make sure that they can try before they buy. You know, a lot of higher eds have a lot of software they call just sitting on a shelf because it's not being used. So this gives you the ability to utilize something and to see the value of it without, a huge commitment.
And the trial, so you can get a trial of Enterprise and the Nonprofit Success Pack installed on top of it, as well as Volunteers for Salesforce installed on top of it. Pre-configured. Almost all of it is pre-configured. It's amazing. It's for 30 days.
Wow.
And after 30 days, it converts into your org if you decide to continue on and apply and actually get those 10 licenses. So it's not like a developer org where you have to start from scratch again. Yeah, it's really smart. Like I said, we have a crackerjack team of engineers.
This has been awesome. I really, really appreciate it. I know that, it came from more of a selfish need that I was like, I just want to be involved in nonprofit and I don't know how. And then, getting to talk with Jason and just trying to figure out like how we are a little siloed, but it does make sense a little bit more now why, but it doesn't have to be like you can't be a part of it.
Yeah.
Just real quick before you go, can one of you plug a little bit more about Amplify as well? I know it is Girl Force, but just maybe talk a little bit how it's different than the Hub, what it's doing, yada, yada.
So Amplify was originally Girl Force, and Girl Force started as a group in the Power of Us Hub. And so they're still in the Power of Us Hub. They've just rebranded as Amplify. So if you want to get involved with Amplify or see any of the activities or programs that are happening around Amplify, you can go to weareamplify.org. And you can connect there and see all the goodness coming in the community. But if you're in the Power of Us Hub and you want to get involved, there is the Amplify user group. Amplify user group. We need to scratch that. In the Amplify group in the Power of Us Hub, if you want to get involved in any of the programs or the mentoring circles or any of the success stuff that we have going on, that can all be found in the Power of Us Hub. Is that what you were looking for, Melinda?
Awesome. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you both so much.
Dreamforce?
And we'll see you in 10 days? 11 days? 10 days? 11 days?
I'll be there.
Woo-hoo.
Sounds awesome. Thank you both.
That.
My new best friends.
Oh, right. That was really awesome. And I feel like we were like a grown-up podcast that had like great questions and good conversation and not a lot of like talking all over each other. We like grew up.
Actual segues that just happened, really?
Oh my God, 2 years. We've made it.
Oh man, maybe.
So I'm excited.
Are you gonna go? Like, do you? You want to go to one?
And I'm disappointed that
it's
I
in
didn't get to see the one here in Denver.
I know,
but only because I really think, like I said, with them, it's really selfish reasons. I miss doing some kind of nonprofit. So I guess in my like kind of half-assed way, I was like, "Ooh, I'll just get part of Amplify and go to a sprint, and then it'll fill the void of what I'm missing." And that's not true. I mean, it could, but it still is not the same as volunteering for a nonprofit like I've been missing. I'm going to get my shit together, I swear.
I really did. I was going to say, I really did kind of call you out there. Like, are you ready for some like accountability, friends? I was just like, shut up.
The deal for me is I'm doing a lot. I witness success, this podcast, Denver user group. I just think that, I mean, it's possible. I could absolutely go volunteer for a nonprofit where you only volunteer like once a month. That's possible. It doesn't have to be this overwhelming like time commitment, but I just kept telling myself if I was going to do that something else should drop. And instead, it's not gonna, because we are already in Witness Success 2019 planning. And I wasn't sure if I should stay on because I was trying to manage my commitments. But I mean, we need a third-year pin. I already drew it out. Like
obviously you couldn't do that if you weren't on the core team.
I like odd numbers. I need 3 pins. I need to be in charge of creating this. Anyways, that is so not the point of this. But I really enjoyed speaking to them.
I think it's interesting too, though, to think about what it fulfills for you, right? Like literally just the passion you're hearing from both of them, and how finding the right organization, kind of like she was mentioning going on the trip to Ethiopia, right? Like finding the right thing that changes things for you. Versus, so maybe for you that experience isn't Salesforce related, right? Like maybe you're just trying to find somewhere you can volunteer that maybe you and Ollie can go together, right? And you're doing something that then helps you fill that little place in your
I had a great experience
heart.
with the Denver mission recently with some extra food from our user group meeting. So that might be my jam. So obviously we're 2 guests, much more than we've had before. It's been long, so we should probably just get right into it. Tell me, my dear sweet pal.
I like that we explain all of our decisions. Like we're consciously trying to not talk so much. So it is funny, that's our segue.
Like someone's gonna be like, "What the fuck? Like, why didn't you explain what you were doing here? This podcast is bullshit."
You already had guests. Why do you have 2 SuperFaves?
Why were there 2 guests? It's always one. What's happening?
Stop talking. Okay, so here's my favoriteest small world thing that happened. So listen, I've talked about being in therapy on this podcast to stranger. Like, I don't care.
Therapy's
I'm not
awesome.
Trying to justify it. I would run into my therapist. I would like to hang out with my therapist, actually. And that is saying something, because it took me a few, which is tough because persistence with those kind of things is not my jam, but it took me a few to finally find the right person that's like that for me. So again, I'm not ashamed. I'm not anything about that. But so I got but I also realized she doesn't exactly understand what I do still, which is kind of funny because we talked about that. Like, I don't work for Salesforce, but I accidentally said, like, I do work for whatever.
Sometimes it's easier.
My scenario this week, I sit down, she's like, before we start, she's like, I have a client that does this, and he just bought Salesforce, and he says that the support hasn't been as helpful getting started, and so I thought of you, and so can I tell him your information? And like, I don't even know if you do that or if you know someone. And it was just so funny that and then of course I'm like, yeah, he could do Trailhead, he could do, like, we could just meet for coffee. And she's like, I mean, he would pay for it. And I'm like, I don't even care, like, I'll give him stickers, so it was just funny that so yes. So then she's like, yeah, I gave him your information. So, if someone tells you that Jan told them to call,
That's
don't
hilarious.
forget, But it was also funny because we actually talked a bit about so going for the ADD, and what she kind of articulated well that I've been feeling is that some clients go for like depression related issues alone or certain situational things, and then they're kind of done, which I called graduating, which she thought was funny. But then from the ADD side, there's a lot more life coachy management type skills that you're learning and trying to repeat and having accountability. And so some people come just for that. And so I think what I was feeling was like that I was kind of ready to graduate, but I know there's still things to do, but I'm happier. And so we were talking about kind of that balance. So it was funny because then she's like, now he comes to see me for similar reasons that you do. So he may not do it soon.
Let me give you a little background.
But I'll keep on him about it, So it was just funny that it was like both you procrastinators can go and, do some things. So I thought that was real funny, small world.
My class therapist, which I haven't seen in a while, I think I've mentioned, I just really liked her. And I was like, we should be pals. I didn't say that because, I'm not. Oh, and she's a recovering alcoholic. And I was like, this isn't going to work out. I'm confused. I'm already confused on how to feel. But yeah, I totally get that. You're like, we should be friends. Speaking of alcohol, my super fave is, I don't know if you saw my picture I posted on Twitter this weekend, but I got to go to the Denver Food and Wine Festival with my girlfriend, who is a VP for marketing for a hospitality group. So she got us tickets, and you walk in and they hand me a Rydell glass, like wine glass. And I was like, and this is like this whole open area with like tents outside. And I was like, this is fucking stupid. Why would you hand me glass? But then you walk over to the next tent and you donate. I don't even remember what we were donating for. And they gave you a lanyard with a rubber like cup thingy that
glass
held
holster.
My freaking glass. So not only is that smart for glass, there was food to taste. So it's always cumbersome to try and eat when you have a wine glass in your hand. And they do have those little plate situations that hook onto your glass, but this was brilliant.
Hands-free wine.
Brilliant. So I put everything in my wine glass for the rest of the night. I also had a happy hour to see my stepsister and step-brother-in-law, sister, brother-in-law, whatever, and then a birthday party. So I was I had like a 9-hour stretch of hanging out. So I was a good girl. I paced myself. And then when I was done, I was so done. We were at Josh's friend's birthday party. And it's like 10. And I was like, I sat down. I jumped on the trampoline. We hung out outside and I sat down and I was like, I'm done.
Jumped on the trampoline, mixing it all up like that. I just
for sure.
Barfy just thinking about it.
All of the wines and the foods. So I told him, I was like, I gotta go. I was like, you stay, hang out. I'm out. And then I woke up on the couch. It was awesome. And I was like, why sounds like out here?
Great weekend. What did I do?
Well, I got out of the lift and it was like the least amount of steps to laying down. In the door.
I feel that.
Sofa. You know how my house is laid out. So Josh was like, I tried to get you to go to bed. And I was like, you know better than that. Don't touch me. I'll bite your hand off or something when I am out like that. I am the meanest. If you wake me from a dead sleep, ask Amy. Or if you wake me from a dead sleep and I've been drinking, I am a foul human. Just don't. Just leave me be. Even if I'm sleeping with like one leg behind my back in the most uncomfortable position like in the driveway, just leave me. I have pled before. Just let me sleep here. Josh was like, you're in the yard.
As long as you don't wake up the next day and then you're like, why'd you let me sleep there? Then that's fine.
I would just leave me alone.
If you acknowledge your demonness and you live with the consequences, then that's fine.
No, I'm telling you, just fucking leave me. I love you so much.
Well, now we know. I will talk to you again soon, and then I'll see your face in person. Oh my gosh, because Dreamforce is coming.
Yep, 11 days. We have a pre-Dreamforce podcast with Angela Mahoney, and I'm super excited about that. My packing's pretty much done. I got more things shipped today. I am planning, don't look at me like that. Yes, the packing is done.
Your packing is pretty much done?
I
did my sticker mule order, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I ordered Zacca patches and we have some emergency, and I got snacks and treats and what I'm wearing and what I'm bringing and my sticker binder. And yeah, I am really excited about this.
Okay, let's do it. In the meantime, stay witty.